The Last Hope. High Admiral Vexterra stood at the observation deck of the Concordia's flagship, her iridescent scales dulled with exhaustion as she watched another system fall to the void plague. The massive view screen showed the horror in real time, entire planets turning black as the nanite swarm consumed everything in its path, leaving only dead worlds in its wake. The Concordiat, an alliance of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations, had thrown everything they had at the plague. Energy weapons, antimatter bombs, temporal disruptors. Nothing worked. The nanites adapted to every weapon, every strategy, growing stronger with each failure. High Admiral, her second-in-command, Science Director Zira, approached with a data crystal clutched in her tendril. "The Council requests your presence. We found something in the ancient archives." Vexterra followed Zira to the council chamber, where the remaining leaders of the Concordiat gathered around a holographic display. The usual political posturing was absent. They had no energy left for it. 40% of known space had already fallen to the void plague. "What have you found?" Vexterra asked, noting the strange mix of hope and fear in the assembled faces. Council Elder Moxexi, his crystalline form flickering with nervous energy, activated the hologram. "We've discovered references to a species known as humans in the oldest sections of our archives. They're referred to as Deathworlders." The chamber fell silent. Every spacefaring race knew of Deathworlders, theoretical beings who evolved on planets so harsh that survival itself was a daily struggle. But most considered them myths, campfire stories told to scare younglings. The records indicate their homeworld, Earth, has environmental conditions that should make complex life impossible. Zira explained, her tendrils weaving complex patterns of excitement. Extreme temperature variations, high gravity, toxic atmosphere, aggressive predators, natural disasters. Yet they not only survived but thrived. The hologram showed various scenes from Earth: hurricanes, volcanoes, earthquakes, predators with sharp teeth and claws. To the assembled aliens, it looked like a nightmare world. "But this is what truly interests us," Zira continued, shifting the display to show human biological data. "Their bodies are built like survival machines. Dense muscles, redundant organs, highly efficient repair systems, and most importantly, internal nanite resistance." Vexterra's head snapped up. "What did you say?" "Their cellular structure naturally resists nanite invasion. We believe it's an adaptation to their world's high concentration of microorganisms. Their bodies are constantly at war with invasive entities." The implications hit Vexterra like a plasma burst. A species that had evolved natural defenses against microscopic invaders, exactly what they needed against the void plague. "Where are they now?" she demanded. "Why haven't we encountered them before?" Elder Moxixi's crystalline form dimmed slightly. "They're in a restricted sector of space, quarantined by our ancestors thousands of cycles ago. They were deemed too dangerous to contact. The records suggest they have an aggressive innovation drive. They advance technologically at an alarming rate." "How alarming?" Vexterra asked. "They went from primitive atmospheric flight to rudimentary space travel in less than 60 cycles. Our species took over 1,000 cycles to make the same advancement." The chamber erupted in murmurs. Such rapid development was unheard of. It should be impossible for any stable civilization. Vexterra moved to the center of the chamber, her scales now glowing with determination. "We're out of options. The void plague adapts to everything we throw at it because it's all based on the same fundamental principles. We need something different, something unpredictable." She turned to face the council. "We need the Deathworlders. We need humans. The quarantine protocols," one council member began, "will be meaningless if the void plague reaches their sector." Vexterra cut in. "And it will, eventually. We're not just fighting for ourselves anymore. Every species in the galaxy is at risk." She gestured to the hologram of Earth. "Look at their world. They evolved on a planet that's constantly trying to kill them. They survive disasters that would destroy our civilizations. They adapt, they innovate, they endure. Isn't that exactly what we need right now? The council chamber fell silent again, but this time it was a silence of consideration rather than fear. Finally, Elder Moxexley spoke. The decision must be unanimous, he said, his crystalline form pulsing with grave authority. We all know the risks. If we do this, if we contact the humans, there's no going back. They'll become part of the greater galactic community, for better or worse. One by one, the council members signaled their agreement. Even those who had initially objected could see the logic. They were facing extinction. The time for caution had passed. High Admiral Vexterra, Elder Moxexi announced, you are hereby authorized to make first contact with the species known as humans. May the stars have mercy on us all. As Vexterra left the chamber to prepare for the mission, she couldn't help but wonder what these Deathworlders would be like. Would they help? Would they even believe the threat was real? And if they did join the fight, what changes would they bring to the galaxy? She was about to find out. First contact. The United Earth Defense Fleet detected the alien vessel 3 days before it reached the solar system's edge. Unlike the scenarios played out in countless training simulations, this ship made no attempt to hide its approach. It broadcasted a continuous message on all frequencies. We come seeking help. The galaxy is dying. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the UED command center, watching the holographic display as the alien ship decelerated into orbit. It was beautiful in an alien way, all sweeping curves and iridescent surfaces that seemed to shift colors as it moved. Nothing like the practical, angular designs of human vessels. Analysis, she asked, not taking her eyes off the display. Ship design matches nothing in our database, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. Energy readings are off the charts. Their tech is way beyond ours, but they're keeping their weapons systems powered down. If they wanted to attack, they've had plenty of chances. Chen nodded. After humanity's first detection of alien radio signals 50 years ago, they'd prepared for every possible first contact scenario. But this, an advanced alien civilization openly approaching Earth and asking for help, wasn't in any of the playbooks. Open a channel, she ordered. The alien ship's response was immediate. A holographic figure materialized in the command center, a tall, serpentine being with iridescent scales and multiple sets of eyes. It wore what appeared to be some kind of military uniform. I am High Admiral Vexterra of the Concordiat. The alien spoke in perfect English, clearly using some form of advanced translation technology. Thank you for allowing this communication. Chen stepped forward. Admiral Sarah Chen, United Earth Defense Fleet. Your message mentioned the galaxy is dying. Please explain. What followed was a briefing that made even veteran military officers pale. Vexterra explained about the Void Plague, showing recordings of entire worlds being consumed by the nanite swarm. The Concordiat's desperate battles, their mounting losses, and finally, their discovery of humanity's potential resistance to the plague. Let me be clear, Chen said when the briefing ended. You're saying that because we evolved on a death world, our bodies might be naturally resistant to these nanites. Your biological adaptations are unlike anything we've seen, Vexterra confirmed. Your cellular structure, your immune systems, they're incredibly robust. You've evolved to fight off microscopic invaders on a scale that most species never had to face. Chen exchanged looks with her staff. They'd always known Earth was a harsh world by galactic standards. It's why they'd found no habitable planets in nearby systems. But to hear it described as a death world was something else entirely. How long? Chen asked. Before the plague reaches Earth, perhaps 2 standard years if we're lucky. It's consuming systems faster as it grows stronger. Chen didn't hesitate. This was why she was in command. The ability to make hard decisions quickly. I'll need to contact our governing council, but you should know our response now. If this threat is real, and I believe it is, humanity will fight. Vexterra's scales rippled in what might have been surprise. Just like that. No demands, no negotiations. Those can come later, Chen replied. Right now, there's a threat to all sentient life. Everything else is secondary. You don't seem shocked by our existence, or afraid of the plague, Vexterra observed. Chen allowed herself a small smile. High Admiral, humanity has been preparing for both alien contact and global threats since we first looked up at the stars. We've developed thousands of contingency plans, run countless simulations. We've imagined and prepared for everything from alien invasions to cosmic horrors. She gestured to her staff, who were already mobilizing, sending alerts and preparations throughout the defense network. We're not afraid because we've been ready for something like this. Maybe not this exactly, but something. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our biology. It's our preparation, our adaptability, and our determination to survive. Vexterra watched the flurry of activity with all four eyes. The record said you were quick to act. But if you think this is quick, wait until you see how fast we can mobilize when we're properly motivated, Chen said. How much time do we have before you need our help? The nearest battlefront is 3 months' travel at our fastest speed. Then we have 3 months to prepare. We'll need all the information you have on the plague, your technology, everything. We'll also need to run tests to confirm our supposed resistance. And High Admiral, yes, welcome to Earth. Let's save the galaxy. As Chen turned to begin preparations, she couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe, had always prepared for the worst. Now they had their answer, and with it, a chance to prove themselves on a galactic stage. The next 3 months would change everything. But first, they had work to do. The human factor. The Concordiate warship's observation deck fell silent as they watched the human combat demonstration. A squad of Earth's Special Forces operators moved through a simulated void plague environment, their movements precise yet unpredictable. Where Concordiate warriors relied on energy shields and advanced armor, these humans used terrain, improvised cover, and what they called unconventional tactics. Science Director Zera's tendrils twisted in fascination as she recorded everything. Remarkable. Their combat doctrine completely contradicts established military principles. High Admiral Vexterra watched a human soldier repurpose damaged equipment into an impromptu explosive device. They call it adaptable warfare. They assume nothing will go according to plan and prepare accordingly. The demonstration reached its climax as the human squad faced a simulated nanite swarm. Instead of retreating from the overwhelming force, they split up, drawing the swarm into carefully prepared kill zones. They used the environment itself as a weapon, triggering cascading reactions that trapped and destroyed the nanites. Victory confirmed, the training AI announced. Simulation successful. Captain Maya Santos, the human squad leader, approached the observation deck. Despite the intense combat simulation, she showed no signs of fatigue. Questions, High Admiral. Several, Vexterra admitted. Your tactics seem chaotic, dangerous. You deliberately exposed yourselves to enemy fire multiple times. Controlled chaos, Santos corrected. The void plague adapts to patterns, so we don't give it any. Every engagement is different, every solution unique. We call it tactical improvisation. Zyra brought up a holographic analysis of the battle. But the risk to your personnel is calculated, Santos interrupted. Every member of my team knows exactly how far they can push themselves. It's part of our training. We don't just learn combat maneuvers, we learn to think creatively under pressure. The discussion was interrupted by an urgent communication. The Concordiate scout fleet had engaged a void plague force in the Sigma sector. The battle wasn't going well. How soon can your team deploy? Vexterra asked. Santos was already moving. We're always ready. Give us 20 minutes to gear up. As the humans prepared for their first real combat against the void plague, Vexterra observed their loading procedures, where Concordiate warriors methodically checked their energy weapons and shield generators. The humans packed an assortment of seemingly random equipment alongside their primary weapons. "What are those?" she asked, pointing to some unusual devices. "Improvised tools," Santos explained while checking her rifle. "Propane tanks, industrial acids, electromagnetic pulse generators, anything that might give us an edge. The Void Plague adapts to weapons, right? So we bring things that weren't meant to be weapons." The human approach to warfare continued to surprise Vexterra. The Concordiat had always focused on developing the perfect weapon, the ultimate defense. Humans, it seemed, believed anything could be a weapon or a shield if used creatively enough. Hours later, in the Sigma sector, philosophy was put to the test. The Void Plague had cornered a Concordiat defense fleet, its nanite swarms consuming ship after ship. Standard tactics had failed. The plague had already adapted to their energy weapons. The human dropship burst from hyperspace into the chaos. Santos' voice crackled over the command channel. "This is Earth Special Forces. We're seeing multiple swarm formations. Permission to engage our way." "Granted," Vexterra replied, watching anxiously. "Show us what humans can do." What followed would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. The human squad split into smaller teams, each implementing different tactics simultaneously. They used the debris field from destroyed ships as cover, set up crossfire zones, and deploy their improvised weapons in ways that kept the swarm off balance. "They're hurting the nanites," Zyra realized, watching the battle unfold, creating confusion in the swarm's coordination patterns. She was right. The humans weren't just fighting the Void Plague. They were manipulating it, using its adaptability against itself. When the swarm adapted to one type of attack, they switched to something completely different. Their unpredictability made them impossible for the plague to counter effectively. "Central swarm density dropping," a tactical officer reported. "The nanites are starting to break formation." Santos' voice came through again. "Now for the final. All units, execute Operation Chaos." Multiple explosions rippled through the battlefield, but they weren't normal detonations. The humans had converted their dropships' engines into massive electromagnetic pulse generators, while simultaneously releasing a cloud of experimental chemical compounds. The combined effect created a cascade of reactions that ripped through the nanite swarm. "Swarm cohesion critical," the tactical officer announced. They're dissolving." For the first time since the Void Plague appeared, a major swarm had been completely destroyed. The human squad had accomplished in one battle what the Concordiat's finest fleets had failed to do in years of fighting. As the dust settled, Vexterra turned to Zyra. "I think we need to rethink our entire approach to this war." "Agreed," Zyra replied, her tendrils still weaving patterns of excitement. "The humans don't just resist the plague biologically. Their entire way of thinking is anathema to it. They're chaos to its order, creativity to its logic. They're not just Deathworlders," Vexterra realized. "They're survivors, and they just might be exactly what the galaxy needs." Turning point. The combined fleet hung in orbit around Nexus Prime, humanity's first extrasolar colony, and now the front line in the war against the Void Plague. 3 months of joint operations had transformed both human and Concordiate forces. Human ships, retrofitted with alien technology, flew alongside Concordiate vessels that now carried improvised weapon systems designed by Earth's engineers. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, Earth's newest flagship. The massive view screen showed the approaching storm, the largest Void Plague swarm ever detected, a roiling mass of nanites that blotted out the stars themselves. "Status report," she demanded. "Swarm is maintaining its course," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. "Estimated time to engagement, 15 minutes. All ships report ready." High Admiral Vexterra's hologram appeared on the bridge. "The Concordiate fleet is in position. Are you certain about this plan?" Admiral. It seems insane. Chen smiled. That's the point. The plague adapts to logical strategies. So we're going to do something completely illogical. The plan was perhaps the most audacious in military history. Instead of trying to destroy the swarm directly, they would use the gravity well of Nexus Prime's sun to create what human scientists called a chaos cascade. A chain reaction that would disrupt the nanites' ability to coordinate on a fundamental level. All ships, final positions, Chen ordered. Remember, timing is everything. One mistake, and we lose everything. The fleet moved into formation, creating a complex geometric pattern that would have seemed random to outside observers. But every position had been calculated to the millisecond, every ship's role precisely choreographed in what the human tacticians called controlled chaos theory. Swarm entering range, Rodriguez announced. They're reacting to our presence. The nanite swarm shifted, spreading out into attack formations that had already consumed countless worlds. But this time, they faced something different. The combined fleet didn't retreat or advance. Instead, they began a complex dance of seemingly random maneuvers. Phase 1, Chen commanded. Launch the bait. Hundreds of probes shot from the human ships, each carrying a different type of energy signature. The swarm reacted predictably, splitting up to chase what it perceived as easier targets. But each probe led portions of the swarm along carefully plotted trajectories. They're following the pattern, Vexterra observed. The swarm is spreading thin, just as you predicted. Pattern recognition is their strength, Chen replied, and their weakness. Phase 2, initiate solar gravitational manipulation. The Concordia's most powerful ships activated their gravity drives, creating localized distortions in spacetime. Meanwhile, human vessels launched specialized warheads into the sun itself. The massive star began to pulse with unusual energy patterns. Solar activity spiking, Rodriguez reported. Gravitational waves are intensifying. The swarm is starting to show signs of confusion. The nanites began to move erratically, their usual coordinated patterns breaking down as conflicting gravitational forces pulled them in multiple directions. The probes they had been chasing suddenly changed course, each emitting different frequencies that further disrupted their coordination. Now comes the hard part, Chen said. All ships, execute final maneuver. Let's show them why you don't mess with Deathworlders. The combined fleet moved as one, each ship firing their engines at precisely calculated moments. The complex gravitational web they had created began to resonate with the solar pulses, creating a cascade of spatial distortions that ripped through the swarm. Swarm cohesion dropping rapidly, Rodriguez called out. The cascade is working. But the void plague wasn't finished. A portion of the swarm, larger than the rest, suddenly changed tactics. Instead of trying to maintain its formation, it consolidated into a dense mass and charged directly at the fleet. That's new, Chen muttered. All ships, hold position. Trust the plan. The dense mass of nanites approached with frightening speed, but the fleet held their positions. At the last possible moment, Chen gave the final order. Initiate Operation Supernova. The specialized warheads in the sun detonated simultaneously, triggering a carefully controlled solar flare. The gravitational web created by the fleet captured and focused the energy, turning it into a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. The concentrated blast caught the charging nanite mass perfectly. The combination of extreme heat, radiation, and gravitational forces did what conventional weapons never could. It ripped the nanites apart at their most basic level. Swarm is disintegrating, Rodriguez reported, his voice filled with disbelief. Complete structural breakdown across all sections. They're not adapting. They're dying. The bridge erupted in cheers as the massive swarm dissolved into harmless particles. For the first time since the void plague appeared, a major victory had been achieved. Not through superior firepower or advanced technology, but through the combination of human ingenuity and alien capability. By the stars, Vexterra breathed. You actually did it. Your chaos theory worked. Chen watched the last remnants of the swarm disappear into space. This is just the beginning. Now we know how to beat them. We can replicate this strategy across the galaxy. The plague adapts to patterns. So we'll keep changing the pattern. We'll keep being unpredictable. As the fleet regrouped and began analyzing data from the battle, Chen couldn't help but feel proud. Humanity had proven itself not just as survivors, but as innovators. They had shown the galaxy that sometimes the best solution wasn't the most advanced or powerful. It was the one no one expected. The war wasn't over, but the tide had turned. The void plague had finally met its match in the species it had unknowingly created. The Deathworlders who thrived on chaos and adaptation. The galaxy would never be the same. A new era. 1 year after the Battle of Nexus Prime, the Galactic Concordiate's central chamber looked very different from when they had first discovered humanity. Where once there had been only alien representatives, now human delegates stood among them as full members. The chamber itself had been redesigned to accommodate Earth's higher gravity requirements, a small but significant symbol of how much had changed. High Admiral Vexterra stood at the podium, addressing the assembled representatives of 100 worlds. The last major void plague swarm was eliminated yesterday in the Carina sector. After 3 years of war, we can finally declare victory. The chamber erupted in celebration, but Vexterra noticed that the human delegates remained characteristically focused. Admiral Chen, now serving as Earth's primary representative, caught her eye and nodded. They both knew that victory didn't mean the end of challenges. But this victory, Vexterra continued once the chamber quieted, represents more than the defeat of an enemy. It marks the beginning of a new era for our galaxy. The integration of human innovation with Concordiate technology has opened possibilities we never imagined possible. She gestured to the holographic display showing the latest statistics. Worlds that had been written off as uninhabitable were now being colonized using adaptation strategies developed by human environmental engineers. Concordiate ships retrofitted with human-designed systems were exploring regions of space previously thought too dangerous to navigate. The humans have taught us something invaluable, Vexterra declared. They've shown us that adversity breeds innovation, that challenges make us stronger. We called Earth a death world, but we now understand that it was precisely these harsh conditions that created a species capable of saving us all. Admiral Chen stepped forward to address the chamber. When humanity looked to the stars, we always hoped we weren't alone. We prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. The void plague was a threat beyond anything we'd imagined, but it proved something we've always believed, that together we are stronger than we are alone. She activated a new holographic display, showing the joint human Concordiate research projects currently underway. We've already begun adapting our chaos theory principles to other challenges: environmental restoration, energy generation, space exploration. The possibilities are endless when we combine our different perspectives. The display shifted to show a new ship design, a hybrid of human and Concordiate engineering. This is the first of our new joint exploration vessels. It carries both human and Concordiate crews, designed to push the boundaries of known space. Because if we learned anything from this war, it's that the unknown shouldn't be feared. It should be explored, understood, and adapted to. Science Director Zara, who had spent the past year studying human biology and culture, added her own observation. The humans have a saying, "Necessity is the mother of invention." Their entire history is a testament to this principle. Where we saw limitations, they saw challenges to overcome. Where we sought perfect solutions, they embraced imperfect but effective ones. The chamber moved on to discussing the practical matters of this new era: trade agreements, technological exchanges, joint defense initiatives. But there was an underlying current of excitement in every conversation. The galaxy was changing, evolving in ways no one had predicted. Later, in a quiet moment between sessions, Vexterra found Chen staring out at the stars from the observation deck, having second thoughts about joining the Concordiate. Vexterra asked. Chen shook her head, just thinking about how far we've come. A year ago, we were quarantined in our own solar system, preparing for threats we could only imagine. Now we're helping to reshape the galaxy. You've certainly changed us, Vexterra admitted. Some of our more traditional members are still struggling to adapt to your unconventional methods. Change isn't easy, Chen agreed, but it's necessary for survival. That's something we learned on Earth a long time ago. Standing still means death. You have to keep moving, keep adapting, keep pushing forward. And what challenges will humanity push toward next? Chen smiled, gesturing to the vast expanse of space before them. There's a whole galaxy out there, filled with mysteries and dangers we haven't even discovered yet. We'll face them the same way we faced the Void Plague, with determination, innovation, and maybe a little controlled chaos. As if to emphasize her point, a group of human and Concordiate scientists rushed past, excitedly discussing some new discovery or theory. The mixing of species and ideas that had once seemed impossible was now becoming commonplace. The galaxy had feared the Deathworlders, had quarantined them out of concern for their aggressive innovation and adaptability. But those very traits had saved civilization itself. Now, as humanity stepped into its role as full members of the galactic community, those same traits were helping to forge a future brighter than anyone had imagined. The age of isolation was over. The age of collaboration had begun. And somewhere out there, new challenges waited to be faced by a galaxy forever changed by the species that had learned to thrive in the face of death itself.